everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another Bitesize with Britt video. And I am particularly excited about this one because along with all of you, I get to learn some tips and tricks from friends who have recently delivered and to see some heartwarmingly, not really sure if that's a word, but anyway, some super cute baby faces that are sure to bring a smile to your face today. As always, before we get started, let's take our deep breath to reset on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. All right, so this video is similar to the pregnancy rapid fire questions video I posted 2 weeks ago, where some pregnant friends and I answered some common pregnancy related questions. I'll link to that video in the description below in case you missed it. But in today's video, we get to learn about the other side of delivery by hearing some thoughts, experiences, and recommendations from some awesome new moms. Before we hop into the round of questions, I want to quickly remind you about the first Bitesize with Britt monthly challenge beginning at the end of this week on April 1st, which is all about quotes. I briefly outlined the challenge at the end of last week's video, but as a quick recap, if you sign up for the challenge, you'll get to be on the lookout for meaningful quotes you come across in your daily life. Whether it's from a book you're reading, a song you hear, an Instagram post you see, a Bible verse, something a friend or family member says, and so on. And then you'll record one quote that either stands out or resonates with you on a daily or weekly basis throughout the month. Then at the end of the month, you'll be left with a bank of quotes to reflect on, and everyone who participates can pick one of their quotes to share. I've put together a template for recording the quotes, either weekly or daily, and I will be sending this to the people who sign up. If you're interested in participating, please comment below or on my recent Instagram post, which you can find on the Instagram page at Bitesize with Britt, and then I'll get in touch with you with the template. I think it will be a great way to encourage us all to be more attentive to the words we come across in our daily lives and what they can mean to us. And by joining, you'll have a shot at the first Bitesize with Britt monthly prize. So I hope you'll join us. Time to jump into today's video. Again, I want to quickly add a disclaimer that if listening to new moms talk about their experiences transitioning into motherhood is not going to serve you today, then please honor that and skip this video. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy this video and maybe learn something new. As of your recordings, how old is your sweet little one?
Hi, I'm Leah, and this is Jillian, and she will be 8 months tomorrow. Right?
Hello, I'm Christiane, and this is Livia, my 3-month-old daughter. Hey, Livia.
So my son is almost 11 months old, which is pretty crazy to think about. As of this recording, my son is 5 weeks old.
My name is Coralie, and this is Holden, and he is 1 year old and 1 week.
What is your favorite part of being a mom so far?
My favorite part of being a mom is getting to hang out with this little lady. She is so sweet. Her smiles and her little giggles recently have just been the best thing ever. Yeah, it's hard to believe that you can possibly love such a little nugget so much before it actually happens. And yeah, there's just something truly magical about getting to interact and connect and connect with this little one.
I think my favorite part about being a mom so far is just meeting him and seeing what he looks like, and just starting to watch him grow and learn who he is and starting to see little bits of his personality.
My favorite part about being a mom is seeing things through my baby's eyes for the first time, like snow or rain or sugar, and it's just really exciting to experience it.
There are so many things I love about being a mom. Obviously, I would say that the thing that stands out the most to me is just really getting to know my baby. When he was born, I really felt like I'd always known him, but as he gets older and develops more of a personality, I'm I'm just realizing that there's so many different facets to who he is, and I think he's the best. So that's been my favorite part.
My favorite part of being a mom so far, I would say, is just watching her learn and grow. I feel like you can just see when her brain is working so hard and taking in a new skill. So I've just really enjoyed seeing that and working with her on that, right?
What has been the most challenging part of being a mom so far?
The most challenging part of being a mom so far for me has been dealing with the health stuff going on with him. We were in the NICU for 18 days, and then since coming home, just trying to retrain my brain not to be so stressed about all of the things that they're monitoring constantly in the NICU. And we know we have some other health stuff coming up, and so just navigating all of that and trying to just soak in the moments.
The most challenging part about being a mom, especially somebody who has been very career oriented up until now, is balancing the need to be needed at work and the fact that you're needed at home, and being able to wrestle with the two. I think going back to work for the first time was really challenging because I felt torn. One thing I knew I knew to expect, but I wasn't fully prepared for, was the range of emotions that you feel postpartum. And so I experienced postpartum depression and anxiety about 8 months postpartum. And the best advice I can give is to seek out help from your family doctor, or there are lots of programs for women who are experiencing postpartum.
He was born in April of 2021 when we were in a full lockdown. So I would say that really just the isolation was the most challenging part. I had a couple friends who had babies, but I moved to a new city just a couple months before I had my son. So the first couple months when you're trying to find your bearings and you can't have people over really, and I would say the stress and the isolation of COVID with a newborn was definitely challenging.
I would say the most challenging part of being a mom was breastfeeding for me. I have some health stuff that I kind of anticipated it maybe not going textbook. And I think a lot of moms have wonderful experiences, and mine is a wonderful experience right now. And I'm so grateful that we stuck with it. But I think not a lot of people talk about how it is really challenging those first days. Yeah, a lot of tears and pain, and not this to scare you, but just the reality that it is really challenging, as are a lot of things in motherhood. So if that's something that you want and it works for you and your family, it does get it hopefully does get better. It got much better for me.
The most challenging part of motherhood so far has been breastfeeding. I've had a low milk supply, so at first baby wasn't gaining weight properly. I had to do lots of really frequent feedings, add in pumping, and then supplement with formula, and it was just a lot. And then my nipples being really sore, and it took probably about 6 weeks for them to recover just from all the pumping that I had to do. Quick tip that I found out from in that journey is that lanolin is actually superior to those organic shea butter based nipple creams that you can get, just because it actually provides a barrier around the skin rather than just nourishing the skin, FYI. And then this past week I've had a brutal headache that I think was triggered by my breastfeeding posture. So things are definitely improving, but a few things to figure out still to make breastfeeding as smooth as possible.
What baby-related purchase or product have you made the most use of so far?
So my baby is now 1. I think in the last couple of months, the most useful purchase we have made has been a combination of the high chair and then the kinds of plates that sort of stick to the top of a high chair or a table, because they get to a phase where they're learning about gravity and they start dropping food, but at least this way the plates don't end up on the floor. So I would say like silicone plates are a really useful tool between 7.5 months to a year.
We are big outdoor folks in this family, so we have like a structured backpack that we love. And when he was younger, I used wraps, I used carriers. You can probably hear him in the back of this video. So all sorts of we had tons of carriers and honestly have used them all. That would be probably the thing that we use the most. This is sort of random, but for Christmas, I bought him this little wooden puzzle for like $3 from Value Village, and he plays with it for at least 40 minutes a day. So I would say that's the other thing. Another thing that we used as a newborn was the Snuggle Me organic pillow. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Everyone has them. I really was reluctant to get one. I thought they were really overpriced. I would never use it. But I wanted it, and my friends got it for me as a surprise. And honestly, I used that thing like so much. It was so helpful. But I think it also depends on the kind of parent you are. I really don't think that there's one thing that everyone will use. Like my friend would just lay her baby on a blanket on the ground, but I like to have him in that little pillow. So to each their own. And then another thing was he was born in the spring. So in the summer, he couldn't wear sunscreen yet. So we bought a Kidco pop-up tent. And we took him actually on 5 camping trips that first summer. And I don't know how we would have done it without that tent.
Julie, what have we used the most? For me, I would say my scrunchie. But for her, I would say we personally really like the wrap carrier. We use the Baby Beluga wrap. And when she was fussy or is teething or just very clingy, it's been really helpful. And even just have hands-free. Yeah, so we like that.
My favorite baby product so far has been the Snuggle Me Organic, which I know I'm mentioning in one of the other videos. You can catch a little sneak peek of it here. We've had so many good sleeps thanks to that lounger. And then the other one I'd say is the Solly Baby Wrap. Also great backup for those like naps that she doesn't want to sleep. It's great for taking her on the go and having her nap on the go.
We bought a high chair that had a newborn attachment that goes to the top that we keep right up next to our kitchen table. So we've made really good use of that because Caden has tube feeding, so he has to be well elevated while he's eating. So we sit him in that while he eats through his tube. But even if you don't have that kind of medical thing going on, being able to sit down at the kitchen table and have the newborn there, like in the high chair, but in the newborn attachment for the high chair would be awesome. Especially we also have a dog, and so not having to worry as much about where the baby is in relation to the dog.
What is something you wish you had purchased ahead of time but didn't?
There's really nothing I wish I had at the beginning that I didn't, just because I think often people go the other way. They buy too much and they don't use it. We were really fortunate to get a lot of hand-me-downs, but I think I was under the impression at least that when I had a baby, I would just be too busy to actually get anything in the moment, and that wasn't true for me. So if I needed something, I just got it, and it was on my porch the next day. So I didn't find that to be a problem. I think it's better to underbuy than overbuy.
Something we wish we had used earlier, I would say, was using a video monitor. Very not necessary. We have a small enough apartment that we can hear her, and we don't even need an audio monitor. But it's been really cute to watch her. I love being able to see her as she sleeps, and then when she wakes up and is crying a bit, I can tell if she's just like crying in her sleep or if she needs me.
In terms of purchases I wish I'd made, I wish I had bought the Halo wrap prior to bringing my baby home. A friend sent one to me, which ended up being a godsend because they are so useful to help your baby sleep. And so that I think is like my number one gift that I give people.
We decided to use cloth diapers, and we bought all the cloth diapers and everything that goes with that, except for figuring out the system we were going to use to kind of keep them in until we wash them and all of that. And so I wish we had thought through the whole process a little bit more. It's not a big deal because we decided to just use disposable diapers for the first couple weeks anyways as we were getting the hang of things, but that's one thing I wish we had thought through and purchased ahead of time.
What surprised you most about the labor or delivery process?
For the labor and delivery process, I would say I went in with a pretty open mind. I just kind of had open heart and hands and knew that nothing ever goes as planned. So I feel like not a lot surprised me about that. We just kind of went with the flow. Yeah, and yeah, I also had a pretty textbook labor and delivery, so I was super grateful for that.
What surprised me most is that there is such a wide range of what's normal when it comes to labor and delivery. I thought that any kind of period-like cramps meant that I would be in early labor. Turns out that wasn't the case at all for me. I had cramps for on and off for like 2.5 weeks leading up to the birth. And even to the point of getting like in contractions that were pretty intense and regular, but not quite regular enough to be active labor. Anyway, so lots of false alarms. And then the other thing was I thought that my water breaking would be really obvious. Like I thought it would be a big gush of water or like at least, or fluid, that it would be something pretty noticeable. Turns out in my case, I had a hind leak, meaning that I just kind of like had this slow leak of fluid that wasn't all that obvious. So yeah, a wide range of what is considered normal.
My labor was an induction, and I think what surprised me the most was how quickly contractions started when I got there. They made it sound on the phone like it was going to be like a chill night. I'd get lots of rest as they were kind of prepping my body. But within like half an hour of getting there, they right away got the meds in me, and I started having contractions nonstop from there on out. And I did end up having a C-section the next day, and this didn't surprise me because I'd read about it, but if you have a C-section, just knowing that it's common for your whole body to just shake uncontrollably. If I hadn't had read that somewhere beforehand, I would have been freaking out. So just knowing that that's a thing.
My biggest surprise in the labor and delivery room was how amazing and attentive the nurses were. I felt really supported at the hospital I delivered at, which was Mount Sinai. And a pro tip, there are unlimited popsicles and Jell-O in the delivery room. So just keep asking for it.
My whole labor and delivery was kind of shocking to me. I ended up having a C-section. I was going for a fully unmedicated birth. So obviously that's very different, but yeah, they tell you to be prepared for the unexpected. And I thought I was prepared for everything except a C-section. I really had full confidence that wouldn't happen. And it did. So that was surprising. Yeah, there's not much, you don't have any control. It's like the first time in my life I've had no control whatsoever over what's happening to me. So just have to surrender yourself to that.
Who did you go to in those first few days post-delivery when you had questions?
We spent 18 days in the NICU. So those first couple of days after delivery, I learned a lot from the nurses there, as well as the nurses in like the mother-baby unit. Even though Caden wasn't with me when I was in there recovering, they helped a ton. So just the hospital staff can be a really good resource, even if you don't have a NICU stay, just learning as much as you can from them while you're there.
So pre and post delivery, I felt that my community was the most useful source of information. So other friends who had delivered in the last few years, people do forget their delivery experiences quite a bit. And I think that's just hormones, but you do remember the facts. I can't think of anything else because I don't remember.
2 of my best friends actually had babies, one a month before me and one 5 days before me. So that was nice because we were all in similar stages and none of us really knew the answers to anything. And then I also had I have a cousin who has 2 young children. So she's actually much older than me, like more than 10 years older than me. Now that we're at a similar stage in life where we both have young kids, it's been so amazing. It's brought us together because she's just been so helpful. I've been able to go to her with anything.
Those first few days of their postpartum. I would say as I was resting and recovering, there were a lot of questions that I had, but I definitely turned to Brian, my husband, a lot for anything he can look up or help me with. But otherwise, I would say a lot more. I turned to my sisters. A couple of them had just recently, in the last year, had babies, so I reached out to them a lot. I personally really appreciate having a chat with them and being able to ask questions there versus having to Google, go in the doom to Google too deep. So that was really helpful to have practical, lived, recent experience to lean on.
How many hours of sleep are you getting on average now?
These days, I'm getting anywhere between 6 and maybe 9 hours of sleep per night. It really depends on the night. But usually I'm in bed by like 11 p.m. and out of bed by like between 9 and 11 a.m. Basically, I just try to stay in bed as long as I need to feel more or less rested and to have had more or less enough hours of sleep.
In terms of sleep, I'm getting about an entire night's worth of sleep with a wake up or two, and it's honestly not as bad as the first couple of months. So there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Our sleep is still kind of unpredictable, unfortunately. I mean, we sleep trained him, and it was the best thing personally I've ever done. We did it at 6 months. It went really well. He took to it well, but he is not 100% sleep trained. So like, I would say when we are home consistently, he'll sleep 6:30 to 6:30, so 12 hours. I mean, I don't go to bed at 6:30, but I could. But we are often like going to stay with our parents or going to stay with friends or whatever. So when I'm doing that, I find that he struggles more. So like he'll often have one wake up at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning, which isn't bad. Like I'll just nurse him and he'll go back to bed. But I think we would have a good sleeper if we made good sleeping conditions for him. But it's all about balance.
We feed him every 3 hours, and it takes about an hour, the whole process. So we sleep kind of in 2-hour chunks, and I would say on average we get about 3 chunks, so about 6 hours maybe.
In terms of sleep, we are very grateful. We have a pretty good little sleeper here. She's sleeping through the night now, and so she gets 11, 12 hours, but mom is not always the most responsible, and I value my me time and my time with my husband, so I definitely go to bed too late, and that's just on me. I have plenty of opportunity for good sleep, so I'm not a good example.
What does self-care look like for you these days?
Self-care does not have to be expensive. It could be having a long shower, taking walks, and it's a lot of stuff that you can do with a baby. I was really fortunate and had the summer off with my baby, and we went on road trips. He would sleep in the car, I would time it, I would not have a schedule, and we would adventure together. We would go into small towns, we would antique, we would picnic and nap in parks, and we were out of the house a lot, which was really, really helpful. And he was quite small. It was between, I think summer was between 3-4 months and 8 months, and so that really helped me. And I'd meet friends in parks. That is what self-care looked like for me.
I don't know what self-care really looks like to me. I mean, I've just started running again. I guess I would say the biggest thing is he's weaning, so I'm starting to go see friends in the evenings, or I sleep in Saturday mornings. So I'm just starting to take more time for myself when other people are watching him. And I know some people are able to put their baby with babysitters earlier, but I just haven't been able to. I'm not comfortable with it. And then with COVID and all that. So just lately, grandparents and stuff have started watching him, and I've gone on a few dates with my partner, and I have girls' night once a week. So that's really good.
In terms of self-care for me, I admit I am not the best. And I'm very aware I need to be doing more for myself because I'm not helpful to anybody if I'm not helpful to myself. Hi. I do really value my daily showers, though. I take time and I unwind. And when things get real crazy, I have a bath. But I do appreciate that my husband's really great. Brian lets me, but he encourages me to go out and go shopping or grab coffee with a friend or whatever I need to do. I'm more the limiting factor. But I have wonderful people who offer to watch her so that I can get out and do stuff for me, which is important.
These days, self-care looks like actually just asking myself what I need in a day. So often that means getting outside, and I try to prioritize that even if the nap schedule doesn't totally work out. I just know that what's best for me is likely best for my daughter at the end of the day. Other days when I've had a rough night, it might actually look like taking an extra nap or staying home, staying inside, and then also just being quite social, either through phone calls or walks or visits with friends. Those have all been, really important for maintaining my mental health.
Before having Kaden, I heard a lot that moms would struggle to shower and stuff during the day. And I just feel really greasy and gross if I don't shower. So one thing that I've made a priority is getting up and showering before my husband leaves in the morning, just to make sure that I'm showered, I feel good. So that's one element of self-care. And then just trying to get out and walk as much as possible. As soon as my body felt ready to do that. Just getting out in the fresh air, getting some sun, has been really good self-care.
What's your biggest tip for moms to be like me?
I mean, it's hard to give advice. I've only been a mom for less than a year, but from what I've learned, I would say to give yourself grace. And, it's not going to be a perfect journey, but at the same time, trust yourself. I was so intensely reading up everything, thinking I really just had no idea what I was going to do with the baby. And some parts of it have come really naturally, and I've been really fortunate in that way. But I think that's also because I've trusted myself. I think if I was overthinking everything, it wouldn't feel so natural. So whenever possible, just try to remember that, people have been parenting for centuries and everyone's got their own style, and you can read up as many blogs as you want and look at where your kid should be milestone wise or whatever. And some people that gives them comfort. But for me, as my son has grown up, that has just been more stressful than helpful. So I'm just listening to his cues and researching the things safety-wise I feel are important. But in terms of the day-to-day, just trying to do what works best for our family.
I would just reiterate to lean on the people that you trust. A friend of mine had said how when she was pregnant, she just looked at a couple trusted friends' registries and asked them things instead of looking to the internet for everything. So I kind of adopted that, and I'm really thankful that I did and continue to do that. So that is something I would say over a website.
My biggest tip for any moms to be is to accept any help that's offered. It's a huge transition in your life to go from no kids to your first kid, or even adding more, I'm sure. But people want to help, and sometimes it's easy to think, oh, I can do this on my own, or just not want to give in to accept the help, but just accept it. People can offer so much support, and our community and friends and family have been such a huge help, and have definitely made this transition a lot easier for us.
My biggest tip for moms to be is to think through some backup options for sleep. So in pregnancy, I read all about the SIDS recommendations and was gung-ho to follow them to a T. But then quickly realized that a newborn actually doesn't sleep following those recommendations. As my husband says, obviously your baby's not going to die in their sleep if they're not sleeping. I don't know, some babies might do fine, but mine definitely did not do well in a crib on her own, lying on her back. She just basically didn't sleep. So a great alternative that thankfully we figured out fairly soon and our doula helped us with that actually, was to just like bring the Snuggle Me organic lounger, and I think there's different brand names for that, but it's basically just like a donut shaped like bed that just provides a little bit of like support on either sides that makes the biggest difference, because baby all of a sudden feels supported and like a little bit cocooned and is way more likely to sleep in there. So we just brought that in bed with us, put it between the two of us, and so we could keep an eye on her. She like looked totally safe. And I was easy to grab her, easy to replace the pacifier if needed during the night. Game changer. We got so much more sleep. And then on the nights where she wasn't sleeping and in the lounger, which it did happen a few times where she was just like not having it, it was great to have the backup option of just being able to take her in bed with us and to have her sleep there. So there we just like did our best to make it as safe as possible by keeping the comforter kind of away from her, and then we had the bed like right up against a crib, so there was no risk of her falling off the bed as well. But yeah, thinking through a few options like that as backups ahead of time, I think would be really helpful, so that when you're sleep deprived and it's the middle of the night, you know, you have something that you can draw on, some options that you can pull out just so that you can get some sleep.
My best tip for a mom to be is when people offer help, actually say yes. Take them up on the help. What can I do to help you? Oh, I'd love if you would clean my bathroom, or I would love if you tidied my kitchen, or I'd love if you brought me a coffee, or I'd love if you held my baby while I went to sleep. And take people up on their help.
Are there any other resources, such as books, websites, or podcasts, that you have found to be helpful in the transition to motherhood?
I feel like I am not very good at sitting down and reading, so I like listening to things. So I listened, upon my sister's suggestion, an audiobook called Baby Proofing Your Marriage, I think it's called. And it just talks about the transition, both partners' perspectives through this. So that I learned a lot from. And then podcasts, I've been listening to podcasts around baby-led weaning and things like that. So I find just while we're hanging out at home or I'm on a drive or something, it's a great time to learn some stuff without having to look at my phone or slow down and read a book, which sounds terrible, but that's my reality. And it really works for me.
In terms of resources, I really liked the Wonder Weeks book and app, which the book in particular has some really good activities if you're looking for things to do with the baby and sort of know what that phase is like.
Before I gave birth, I read Ina May's Guide to Childbirth, and I would say the first half of that book. I actually didn't like the second half. I felt like it was too biased against hospital births, and I had a hospital birth. But the first half of the book I found to be so empowering. It made me so excited to give birth. I wasn't scared at all. Even though I had a C-section, I did fully labor, like to fully dilated, unmedicated, and I feel like, and if that's not what you want, that's totally fine. But I feel like I was able to do that because of that book. I really enjoyed the whole experience. And then in my surgery, there were some complications, and I was using some of those meditative techniques from that book, and I felt like, I don't know what I would have done without it, honestly, because it was very stressful.
A couple of resources I've enjoyed is the book Bringing Up Bébé by Pamela Druckerman. Very entertaining read, great parenting principles in there. And then the podcast She Found Motherhood, evidence-based, done by two female physicians out of Vancouver Island. Some great tips and information around pregnancy, postpartum, the fourth trimester, and then all the way to things like feeding solids to your baby and things like that. Lots of great information on that podcast.
That was awesome. I know I learned a few things that I'm definitely going to keep in mind as I transition into motherhood. And I just want to express how grateful I am to all these super mamas for generously donating their time to this video. I recognize that the life of a new mom is incredibly busy and hectic, and these women in particular are all high-achieving, rock-star human beings, so I'm especially appreciative of them for carving out time to share their thoughts with us. Thank you. I'm learning more and more how helpful it is to reach out, talk with, and learn from people who have gone through something that you're going to go through, whether it's becoming a parent or some other challenge or life event. I hope this video was as helpful to all you soon-to-be mamas out there as it was for me. Before we do our closing deep breath, just a reminder to comment below if you want to sign up for the April Quote Challenge, which will be kicking off this Friday. Okay, deep breath time. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, in. And out. Thanks again for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and have a great week, everyone.